Hello and welcome back to Music History at Educator.com. So I have to apologize for that sort of quick and brief jaunt through Baroque opera, but it's kind of hard to listen to a bunch of examples of opera since they can go on for 3 hours, I know it's a lot of information. Hopefully the quick notes help with that. And now we're going to jump into a different genre altogether, an instrumental genre called the concerto, something you've probably heard of. And what's cool about the concerto is the Baroque concerto comes in a few different forms that we'll talk about, but you're going to start to recognize some of these pieces. And I know you probably haven't recognized some of the monophonic chants or some of the madrigals, for example, but you're going to start to recognize some of this, which is pretty cool. So the Concerto Grosso. Is it gross? Well, finally we have a sole instrumental genre to talk about. We've been talking an awful lot about voice, so it's kind of nice to sit back and, just an instrumental genre altogether. So what's the fancy definition of the Concerto Grosso? Well, it's the most important type of the Baroque concerto. It's characterized by the use of a small group of solo instruments called the concertino against the full orchestra group called the ripieno. So you're going to have the concertino, the soloists, and the ripieno, which is sort of the orchestra. Now, this whole notion of soloist accompaniment goes back from that organum, where you had the one voice of organum that was sort of the fancy one, the principalis, and then you had the one that was not as important. And it's not to say, well, I shouldn't say not as important, of course, but you sort of see this divide of solo accompaniment. This is important for developing instruments, just instruments, as a unique standalone musical entity. As I mentioned, this is not voice. So some of the people that we'll talk about with this are Corelli, Torelli, I think that's great, Vivaldi, more Italians, Handel, not Italian. And then finally, we'll get to this man here that I'm sure everybody has heard of, Johann Sebastian Bach, and he's pictured right here. And we're going to talk about him in the next, actually throughout the rest of the Baroque.